Hello everybody. Have you been looking for a carrot cake recipe which is absolutely soft, tender, delicious and bursting with flavor? Well, you have come to the right place. This is Neetu and welcome to Soul Kitchen. And today I'm going to share my carrot cake recipe with you, which has most often been described as divine. That's right, divine. And it's a carrot cake recipe which even people who never liked carrot cake absolutely love it. They've asked for second and third helpings, and it's really that good. So let's see how it's done. Now today we are using salted butter. This is 100 grams of salted butter, and we are going to be making this eggless. But if you want to use eggs, I'll give you the options how to do it, and let's see how it's done. Okay. So now we have 100 grams of salted butter. I always prefer to use salted butter because I think the little bit of salt which is there in the butter really enhances the sweetness of things. It balances things out really beautifully and just makes things even better. So let's do this. Okay, we're going to whip this up. This is room temperature salted butter. So make sure your wet ingredients, including your eggs or yogurt which I'm using, and the butter are at room temperature before you begin. Okay, let's do this. We're gonna whip the butter on a low medium speed, till it's pale and fluffy, roughly about a minute or so. To this we are going to add our brown sugar. This is 3/4 cup of brown sugar. This is, I think 3/4 cup is just the perfect amount of sugar. It doesn't make it, cloyingly sweet. It's just perfect. So 3/4 cup of brown sugar. And just mix it in little gently so that the sugar doesn't fly all over the place. Then we mix it again. This was my very first cake which I made, so it's always been very special for me. And when I made this cake, my husband gave me an A+ on my little recipe book, and that's always been a really sweet memory of mine. And it's actually been my favorite memory, in the kitchen and for cooking. And really, that's what cooking is about. About creating memories, about sharing love, and all of those good things. Okay. Scrape the sides of the bowl. Also add a vanilla extract. So now, if you're in India and vanilla extract is not so easily available, then you could use vanilla essence. But for extract, if I'm using 1 teaspoon, then for essence, please use slightly less than 1 teaspoon. Maybe about 3/4 teaspoon is enough, because otherwise it gets too strong and it kind of becomes like a fake vanilla flavor. So you don't ever want that. So if you're using essence, please use 3/4 teaspoon, and for extract 1 teaspoon is good. Alright. We blend it in again. about a minute and a half or maybe 2 minutes, because we want the sugars to be very nicely incorporated with the butter. So about 2 minutes is good. Okay, this is becoming good. This is looking good. This is how it's looking. It's all blended in nicely. It looks good. Now to this mixture, I'm going to add my yogurt. This is Greek yogurt, and it's 1/4, half a cup of Greek yogurt. So remember, for each, normally this recipe would ask for 2 eggs, but I don't normally use eggs. So for each egg, you add 1/4 cup of yogurt. And if you were to use eggs, I would suggest you use 1 egg and 1/4 cup of yogurt, because yogurt adds a real nice softness to the cake, to all cakes across the board. So use that. And one egg and 1/4 cup of yogurt is perfect. It's going to give a really, really nice crumb. Or just use half a cup of yogurt. Always add these in 2 parts, because if you add it all together, then the yogurt is going to curdle. And the yogurt, it's just plain yogurt. It's not a vanilla yogurt or anything. And you can buy this either at a store, in one of those little boxes, or if you make yogurt at home, then just strain out the excess liquid until you have a nice thick yogurt, and just use that. Balance of the yogurt. Once again, just make sure it's all mixed in nicely, scrape down the sides. Otherwise, what tends to happen is that, some things, the yogurt can be in one, it can miss a little spot, and it often happens. So, just make sure you keep scraping the sides down. The mixture is looking very good. It's looking quite perfect. Maybe just whip it for another half a minute or so. Okay, that's good. Always get down whatever you can from the whisks, because these are all part of the ingredients which you are going to need later on. This next, we are going to fold in our flour. Okay, let me just show you how this looks. It's looking really good. It's become soft and fluffy, and everything is nicely incorporated. So it's looking really good. Now to this, we're going to add our flour in 3 or 4 parts. Okay, now normally, a lot of people, not a lot, but that's a general practice to sieve in the flour. But I feel for home baking, if you're making like a small cake, like this cake is good for, it's a 1-layer cake. You could slice it in the middle and frost it in the middle also. But it's a 1-layer cake, which is good for about 4 to 5 people. So for small quantity, for a smaller cake, you don't really need to sieve the flour, I feel. I've tried that many times, but I've never really noticed the difference. So you just like dust it in like this. And we have baking powder, which is 1 teaspoon, and baking soda, half a teaspoon. So also going to add cinnamon. Nice good stuff. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. And I'm also going to add a little nutmeg. Now this nutmeg, it's from a whole nutmeg. You just grate some nutmeg down, and if you can get it powdered already, then use that. That's also not an issue. So I'm just using not too much, like maybe 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. That's enough. Alright. Now we gently fold this in. I don't like to use a whisk to incorporate the flour. I never like to do that. That's not the traditional way how it's done, and this just ensures a more softer cake. So we do this, and then after each addition of flour, we add some carrots. This is 1.5 cups of carrots. So we just fold this in. And remember one thing I do want to mention. One second. When you grate your carrots, it's very important to grate them on the bigger side of your box grater, because otherwise, if you grate them from the smaller side, then the carrots release too much liquid and the cake is going to get really dense. It's going to get overwhelmed with all that moisture and it's going to get really dense, and that will not be good. So always grate your carrots from the bigger side, and that way it's all the moisture level is going to be good. So we fold our carrots in, and this dough, this cake batter looks a little stiff compared to other cake batters. Like if you make chocolate cake or vanilla cake, those batters are much more runny. But again, we have to remember that the carrots are going to release that moisture, which is going to add while they are baking, and which is going to make the cake very nice and soft when it's baking. So don't worry about the batter being stiff. Fold it in gently and just make sure there are no streaks of cake left around. You want it all to be incorporated nicely. Don't over mix it, but definitely don't under mix it as well. Again, another batch of carrots. And by doing, by adding the flour in parts, you don't you're not left with some flour which is like overmixed, or pockets of flour which have not been mixed at all. So you end up with a very even batter, which is absolutely what you want. Some more flour, and this is called cut and fold method. Yeah, I can show you how it's done. You fold the flour and then you cut it in. Fold it and cut it. I will make another video, very shortly, which is showing this cut and fold method. And this is, the traditional way, how people used to do it, how people used to make cakes when, when our grandmoms used to bake or when our mothers used to make. This is how they would make it. And we know their cakes were always phenomenal. I know my mom's cakes were phenomenal. And this is, how she taught me to cut and fold, And, when I was a kid, I would be doing this when she was baking. This was my duty, to cut and fold the flour in. So it's always a very nostalgic process when I do this. I'm always thinking of those times. Okay, now the last bit of the flour. Incorporate all the flour, even the ones which is on the sides. I add some on the sides. So you Incorporate it nicely and don't overbeat, overmix, but don't undermix. Now we could also, today I'm out of walnuts, but we definitely can add walnuts to this cake. They really, they do quite good magic to it. So, if you have walnuts, you can add walnuts. You can also add raisins if you want, golden raisins. You could also add chocolate chips if you want. But walnuts and raisins are generally what I added. And today, unfortunately, I don't have them, but it's okay. Alright, so this is how the batter is looking. And like as I said, it's a thick batter for a cake. It's a very thick batter for a cake, but it's gonna be good once it goes in the oven. It's gonna be really good. And that's it. Now I have my pan which has been prepped. I have buttered it and floured it, and as you can see, and this is an 8-inch pan which is perfect for this cake. And we're going to put our cake batter in, and then that's it. Make sure you get everything out. Then we just level it down a little bit, gently. You don't want to knock out the air which we've, worked so hard to get in there. Looking good. Once again, I'm going to show you. It's looking very good. And now this is going to go into a preheated oven, which has been heating for at 175 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's going to cook bake for roughly about 50 minutes. And after about 20 minutes, once the top is nice and golden brown, we're going to cover it very lightly with a foil so that the top doesn't burn. And we're not going to scrimp the edges or nothing, just tent it lightly with the foil. And it's going to bake on the lower rack of your oven. So we'll see this cake soon, in about 50 minutes. I'm so excited. Alright. Okay, so let's make our cream cheese frosting. Now here, I'm going to make a very small batch, which is just enough for a 1-layer cake. We're just going to put the frosting on top of the cake because it's a small cake. And so it's perfect for that 1-layer cake. Now this is 70 grams of cream cheese. Now if you're in India, please don't use cream cheese spread. That is not the cream cheese which we use for cheesecakes or for cream cheese frostings. Absolutely not. And what I have used over here is this, Delecta. They have a good cream cheese. And as you can see it's just cream cheese. It's not cream cheese spread. So this is the right thing to use. Use cream cheese. And 70 grams of cream cheese. And there's about 30 grams of unsalted butter, which we are going to whisk up. Okay, let's see. And just try to make your the cream cheese. Try to make it on room temperature. Mine isn't totally on room temperature, but I'm still going to go for it. Oops. becomes nice and soft. To this we are going to add little bit, just a splash of vanilla, just like less than about 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla, maybe even less, yeah, just maybe like 1/8 of a teaspoon of vanilla. And I'm also going to add a little bit of cinnamon. I like cinnamon. Again, just a little pinch of cinnamon, just to give it that little hint of flavoring. And then, slowly we're going to add in our sugar. We add our sugar slowly. We don't add it in one go because it can get a bit much. So just add it slowly, like, about 1/3 cup at a time. And this is powdered sugar, by the way, icing sugar. The sugar goes and the mixture starts becoming nice and creamy. That's what sugar does to this. You just want to taste it. Definitely more sugar, slightly more sugar. So as you can see, I don't like using that much sugar. I've just used about 1/2 cup. I think this much should be enough. Scrape down the sides because the sugar tends to stick on the sides. And then have a taste again. Actually, this is quite perfect for me. But I suppose a little more won't harm. So I've used about 2/3 cup of sugar, which I think is just perfect. It doesn't need any more at all. Look at that. Oh my God. Ooh, that's a thing of beauty. Okay, let's just keep this underneath. And I'll show you how gorgeous this is looking. That's our frosting. This is how it should look. Oops. This is nice. It's really nice. Okay. Now, once our cake has cooled, we're going to ice this cake. Just put this icing on top of the cake. And I will share that with you in some time once the cake is cooled. Alright. Okay, we're going to ice this cake. Even though it's not fully cooled down yet. But I'm just getting so restless. So here we go. Now you can take a spatula, I can't find mine, I don't know where it is, so I'm just using a knife. And the icing, as you can see, has become nice and oof, it's so smooth. Really, it's so smooth. Ooh. It's very nice, and it's tangy, it's sweet, it's really really good, like perfectly good. It's a perfect infused icing. Ooh. Mm. I'm not very good at icing. I'm telling you honestly. I'm not very good. I mean, I'm great at making cakes and all that. And the icing itself is really good. But I'm not so good at decorating stuff. So I lack a little bit in that. But I will learn. And I will perfect my skills. Okay. Mm. And we also ice it a little bit from the sides. Oh my god, this cake is looking really good now. I'll just put a little bit so that the edges are covered and it doesn't get messy at the same time. This is looking nice. It's the perfect amount of icing. There isn't too much, there isn't too less. It's just perfect. So if you were to double this recipe, obviously for a 2-layer cake, then obviously you would double the cream cheese recipe also, as well as double all the ingredients in the cake, the flour, etc. Everything would be doubled. But since this is a single layer cake, this is what it is. This is like a snack cake, which you have while you're having tea or coffee, or as a little dessert after dinner or lunch. Now, if you were making something for a celebration, birthday or an anniversary or someone graduating, then obviously, you would make a 2-layer cake or a 3-layer cake. But for a single, like a 1-layer thing, this is perfect. For home use, for dinner, dessert, etc., etc., this is just perfect. Whew. Okay, this is done. And it looks good. And I will show it to you. La, 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 la. Oh my god, that was not good. Okay, so in some time I'm going to try it and share that with you. Okay, let's do the taste test. I already tried a little bit and it's really good. Now I'm going to try it for you and tell you exactly how it is. Oh, it is really soft, like unbelievably soft. Mmm. Mm-mm-mm. Like I said, this cake is divine. There's no other way to describe it. It is so good. It's just perfectly flavored with cinnamon and nutmeg. It isn't over the top. The sugar is perfect. And that little salt in the butter just balances out things so beautifully. And the cream cheese is adding that little tang to it. It is a really, really, really good cake. It's so soft here. Mm. The crumb is perfect. And it's so soft. Ooh. Trust me, this is one of the best carrot cakes out there. I mean, really, it's, I've also had lots of carrot cakes, and before I made this cake, I too did not like carrot cake at all. So, and after I made this cake, I'm like, oh my god, carrot cake is so good. It can be so good if it's made correctly. If it's moist and tender and soft, and not, it's nicely spiced. So, it's a really good cake. And please do try it, and please follow along, subscribe to my channel, and let's enjoy baking. Let's have fun together. And this is such a simple cake, and it really it can make your home a home. I always say a home should always have cake. And let this be the cake for today. Try it and see how it turns out, and let me know in your comments below. And please find the detailed recipe in the comments, follow that to a T, and you'll be good to go, promise. So let's tag along and enjoy ourselves. Happy baking, have fun. We'll see you soon.